Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all again, looking hale and hearty. This morning's presentation is inspired by a conversation I had with Suzanne when I asked her what pain points she had about business processes and documentation. Suzanne mentioned that she's trying to implement a paperless office to reduce, or has implemented, to reduce the reliance on paper files. Here we go, and I think I'm preaching to the converted here, so but we'll give it a go anyway. So okay. Oh, sorry, I just have to get my next page. So in the beginning, there was paper. And whether the processes were typed or written down, we ended up with piles of paper on the desks and cabinets all over the place. This lady's Margaret Hamilton. She was the lead Apollo software designer, and that's her stack of code books written to enable the Apollo mission to the moon. So that's what we were up against in those days. These days, NASA missions gather hundreds of terabytes every single hour. And just to tell you what that means, 1 terabyte is equivalent to information printed on 50,000 trees worth of paper, not 50,000 reams, 50,000 trees worth of paper. So talking about today's business challenges, back at the ranch in Penrith, we are coping with challenges such as the increasing pace of commerce, need for agility, effects of the pandemic, and changing compliance requirements. With the increasing pace of commerce, of course, we're all having to be online and available 24 hours a day. The need for agility is being able to make fast decisions for the company and slot the ramifications into your processes very quickly. And let me count the ways of the effects of the pandemic. Online ordering, contactless delivery, efficient administration of returns, contract changes, and digital sign-off and verifications, among many others. So as far as changing compliance requirements goes, we've had quite a few in this recent times, including QR codes, tax legislation changes, and HR legislation changes. So how can we manage all of this efficiently? Each one of, excuse me, well, how can we manage them is a reliance on processes and systems. Each one of these components of your business may have multiple processes and systems that help you complete the task. In many small businesses, though, the fine detail and how-tos are in the business owner's head. And this may lead to hesitation in recruiting when the business is in growth mode, and a fear of losing quality when you don't have control of the process. So why implement a paperless system? Here is an interesting info fact from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they tell us that an average company generates or receives 100 important docs per day. I think that's a very conservative estimate where we're thinking about Catherine or Dana's business. I think 100 docs a day is, at the low end. And it costs $20 to manually file a paper document. We're talking about the minor material resources, but mostly labor resources in this, I suppose. $120 to find a misfiled document, and $220 to reproduce a lost document. And that's just amazing. And then, of course, not to mention the loss of customer satisfaction. So what are the benefits of going paperless? We've got Streamlined workflows. Automated workflows make the right content accessible at the touch of a button, wherever and whenever you need it. And it only takes a second to route documents across multiple departments and systems. The greater agility, all of our competitors are only going to get faster. So the agility that a paperless office gives you is vital to remaining competitive. Reduce business risk, as we were just talking about. Custom access controls and digital data security that comes with this sort of setup make it easier and less expensive to maintain compliance, and reduces very much the likelihood that missing documents will result in fines or lost revenue. Better customer relationships. You can deliver the speed and quality of service that your customers and vendors expect. Increase visibility and smarter decision making for management. And a positive environmental impact. Now, reducing your carbon footprint will help your business for a start in reduced costs for paper, ink, etc. But there are a lot of consumers making a decision today, and that comes into the mix. The fact that you've got sustainability as part of your business practices. So some of the reported return on investments, the combined savings from all of these benefits can result in return on investment being realised within a year. Now, we can ask some of our members today to, discuss that and see whether that's what they've found. But the benefits are obvious. And basically, the three main steps into going paperless will be capturing the information that's incoming. So is it from your website? Is it from social media, snail mail, or a combination of these channels? The second phase will be to automate your workflow, and that involves creating the process maps of how things happen and how orders or work progress through your organisation, from inquiry to billing and then archiving. And then finally, the third phase, archiving and secure data backup. So consistent metadata is very, very important in the archiving process, and ensuring all your data is backed up and secure, knowing where it's backed up, what the plan is to retrieve data, is just an added security for your business and peace of mind, knowing that I know exactly what to do if and when that happens. So what next after the process? So or if you're thinking of putting the process in, I would recommend very highly to research your solution. As I mentioned, there's quite a few of you out there already who've got this paperless system. So some of the market leaders that aren't sort of specific to industries like insurance and finance, I found these are a couple of them. There's one called Info Organizer, and they've been around in Australia since 1999. And having an Australian business or an Australian-based business is important to a lot of business owners. They want to know that they can be supported at any time that they need, and not have to deal with overseas customer service desks, if they don't have to. Now, Info Organizer are also accredited. I don't know if you know that there was a Victorian electronic record standard created a few years ago, and that's been the basis of a lot of policies since then on on electronic record keeping. and Info Organiser are accredited with the Victorian Electronics System and the ATO's ruling TR 2018/2, which is all about income tax record keeping and access of electronic records. So they're well versed on all of the Australian standards information. The other one I found is DocuWare. Now they're an international company. They're a US-based company, but they do have an organisation called DocuWorks, and they're Australian-based and based in Adelaide. And they've designed and facilitated custom implementations for dozens of organisations across Australia. So they're from Townsville to Perth. They cover all parts of Australia, and the system itself seems to have DocuWare seems to have a very high customer approval rating. They might be two organisations that you might like to start researching if you don't have one. So above all, what might be the most important reason for implementing a paperless office? And I have to say, it's time. Over and above any cost savings, efficient processes save you time. And that's time that you get to spend with your loved ones or just doing something for yourself. And a couple of weeks back, Charles Barnard gave us all of the good oil on why that's important for our well-being. So that's the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions, please put your hand up.
Thank you so much, Maha. Great little presentation there. I do have a question. Yes. I'm always looking to find the most efficient way of doing things, and especially involving software or online, processes, whatever that is. In fact, it drives my team crazy. So I'm always making changes. But what do you think is the most difficult part for someone who's starting out the paperless route, which, I think COVID has forced a lot of people to go that route. But what is the most difficult phase, do you think, in going paperless?
I think it's considering doing, it's traditionally, it's big business that has normally reaped the benefits of these kinds of systems and deficiencies. However, a lot more companies like the company that covers you, Suzanne and Dana, they are now starting to work on the small to medium sized enterprises. And the most difficult thing when you're considering is how overwhelming it feels. And if you partner with a good organization, what they will recommend for you is to just do a tiny piece. Start with a small part of the business. And like, for instance, whatever your pain point is, maybe invoicing, the accounting system. Capture all the information. Where do all the invoices come in from, or like are generated? Put in your process maps. The invoice is generated in X system, then goes to this, then goes to this person, sent out to the customer, and some of these automated systems, not just document repositories, these are proper queuing systems, and they will also help you identify if there's any invoices or work that is stuck in a particular part of the business. So management get a lot of visibility about what's going on in the business at any one stage, but the most difficult part is starting. Yeah. And you need a good partner organisation.
Well, thank you, Maha.
Can I also ask, or just make a comment? Do you think people have habits, and a lot of us like paper? I mean, how many of us actually read an electronic book? I think a lot of people still reach for a physical book, and they like to touch things. I'm paperless, but I still occasionally I will print off something to to scribble on or to refer to as I'm doing something else. It's great to have a couple of screens where you can pull things up, and I'm quite progressive, I think, with my electronic use. But I can understand that some people still use paper diaries, let alone,
I do.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, I suppose it shows
just to scribble things on, like you said.
Yeah. But I suppose it shows that, even if you use a paper diary, it doesn't mean that you can't go electronic with everything else. So, so it's, I suppose as people are just used to doing things in a certain way, it's breaking those habits. Dana, I'd be curious to hear, or even from Suzanne. I know, Suzanne, you probably move people to Receipt Bank, things like that, which people have to get their head around. It's no longer being able to shuffle paper and the comfort of that. It's suddenly in the ether somewhere. And Dana, you mentioned that you moved your business from paper to paperless, and that must have been a big shift for how people are used to doing things and their habits.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on it before about how people like to touch paper. The biggest struggle we had, as Maha said, is staff. We do have a filing system called Organise It. We have one staff member who really struggles with the technology, to put it nicely, who doesn't even have logins because that is just simply too hard for them.
Right.
It is a very easy thing. You literally press a button and it goes straight there. So it's very easy. But that was definitely the hardest thing, is just changing habits and the way that we do things. A lot of people really struggled with. Someone like me, I hate paper. I would prefer to have my two screens, have one on here and one on here. And also, as Maha said, is sustainability drives my husband mental, but I am all about saving the turtles and the planet. So for me it was okay. But yeah, we definitely do have a few older staff members who really struggled with it. And then obviously those who were just set in their ways struggled with it too.
Do you have
paperless.
screen-based capture, Dana?
What was that, sorry?
You have screen-based capture, like when you're taking in information from clients, does it go straight into sort of like a form, an online form?
Yes and no. We have a document that it goes into, but then we have to manually input it. The only reason for that is because each insurer has a different system. So it's not something that can go across broadly. And it depends on the client's occupation as well as to how we put that information in. But we do have a central capture of at least the basic information.
Great.
I'd recommend something called Remarkable.
Oh yes, I've seen them.
I actually have two of them that I take into court. So one has the documents on it. So I now walk into court with just this.
Wow.
Which freaks everybody out.
So is it like an iPad?
You can write on it, can't you?
Yes and no. So basically what it is I can download PDFs onto here. So all affidavits, court documents, and I can mark them up on here, flick through
handwritten markup?
Yeah, so, and then what I have for this one is all handwritten notes that then go converted to text, and you can email them. So it's, so you can just, this is just like taking notes, because what I find with clients is keyboards start to put a barrier up, whereas this is just like using a notepad. And then at the end, and the thing is, it doesn't get lost either, because it's here. It's not floating in the back seat of my car somewhere. And you can then email your notes directly from this to your email system and save it in the file.
Yeah, great. I agree with you, Catherine, in regards to the typing when you're having a meeting, because I also take a lot of notes, and I actually, type my notes after the meeting, but I handwrite as we're talking. Yeah, so why am I not going to get that?
You can also, I've got an iPad. I can access all my PDFs and Word files on there, but I've also got the pen on it. But the screen protector that I've got on my iPad, it's called Paper-like, so it gives more of a paper feel. So when you write on it, it's a lot nicer to write on. than a standard screen protector. Yeah.
One thing I liked about these, as opposed to, because I've got an iPad, is that it's just like taking a folder into court, because the only thing on here is the documents I need for that day. So there's no email that comes like you don't get interrupted
No
with
distractions
other shit coming in.
Mm.
And it works so well.
And you can see how light it is. I mean, you're just
It's very light, and you just have it on, and you have your documents on one side, and it honestly has the longest battery life. So for an 8 hours in court, it doesn't run out.
That's great. What are they worth, Catherine?
I think I paid about $680 for it.
Yeah.
I did just Google it. That's 680. I already looked it up.
I'm going to get one.
It just makes, the fact, and when you're taking it, client instructions and everything, you can just have that and you just write it out. And
it's interesting. You mentioned, not having that barrier of a screen and keyboard when you're in meetings with clients. But I've been in so many meetings now with multiple people, and everyone's got their keyboards and their
I find it
moved a lot. It's
it
moved a lot in the last few
has,
years.
but I think it depends what type of meeting. Like if I've got a person talking about their domestic violence, or a rape or something, like, like of that nature, somebody typing and taking, like,
that's right.
It's very
a little bit cold and impersonal.
And the same with financial distress, or whether they're you're talking about someone's business dreams. They don't want to be like so I'm discreetly taking notes, and I'm actually still looking at them. So it's I totally agree with that. Well, thank you so much, Maha. That was a great
that was great, Maha.
presentation. Can you unshare your screen now?